In today's video we are looking at the amazing ORION-15. This is a 28mm super tiny, super lightweight Leica thread mount lens. Let's take a look. Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you're all having a good week. Matt here from MrLeica.com, and today we have lens review number 4 for the Leica thread mount lens series 2. But it might be worth noting that some of the M mount lens series include some thread mount lenses as well. And you're interested in the Voigtlander Scope R 21mm f4, the Voigtlander Scope R 35mm f2.5, the Voigtlander Super Wide Heliar 15mm, and the Leica Elmar 50mm f2.5. All those 4 lenses have already been reviewed in the M mount playlist kind of series. Okay, let's get on. This lens is really quite special. Okay, so as a brief introduction, this is the Russian-made ORION-15, which is a 28mm f6 lens. You're like, f6? What is the point of having an f6 lens? Bear with me, this Russian lens might be better than you think. Now, for those of you that have never heard of this lens, it's originally based on a Zeiss Topogon lens design. I'll bring up a photo to show you what the Topogon looks like. And then if you look at the front of this lens again, and the design is really similar. The way the aperture scale is on the inside. I'll get onto that in a second. This lens was first introduced in 1959 and it came in 2 different lens mounts. The mount we're looking at today is obviously the Leica screw mount. And Leica screw mount means you can use it on amazing Leica screw mount cameras. I'll come on to which cameras in a second, but an obvious example is the Leica 3. And do you like my little accessory? I'll cover this before Christmas, but it's my latest addition to my Leica 3 cameras. And then of course for all of you Leica M shooters, you can of course fit it to any Leica M camera with a standard Leica thread mount to Leica screw mount adapter, which I've shown in many of my previous videos. This lens is really competitively priced compared to a Leica 28mm lens, and we'll come on to that later in the video, so stay with me. So what can I tell you about this amazing little seemingly unknown lens? It is made of obviously metal and glass from the era when they used to make things properly, and it's actually polished aluminium. You can see the made in the USSR on the front there. You've got a minimum close focus distance of 1 meter, obviously going through to infinity. And then as we mentioned a second ago, the aperture scale is not on the outside of the lens like on most lenses, it's actually on the inside. So there you have your aperture scale. If we can get the light to hit it. So your aperture scale goes from f6 to f22, and the way it works is you just use your finger on the inside of the lens, see that, to turn the aperture scale. Obviously one disadvantage of this design is if you have a filter on the front of the lens, you then have to take your filter off to be able to change your aperture. So some people can see this as a bit of a pain. This aperture scale design is not unique to this lens. You also see it on lenses like the Jupiter 12 35mm. I'll cover that here in a future video. I do have that lens. And even lenses like the older Leica Elmar 50mm 3.5, which again has the aperture on the front. That lens I also need to cover. That's probably going to be quite difficult to see, but even with the lens full open, the aperture blades look like they're partly closed down. That's not a fault of the lens, that's just kind of the lens design. It's a 7-blade design. And for those of you lens enthusiasts, lens geeks, this is a 4-element in 4 groups kind of lens design, as I say, based on the Topogon. Obviously this lens does not offer you autofocus, and this is a manual focus lens. The great news is it is rangefinder coupled, so if I quickly mount onto my Leica 3 camera like so, now I can use the rangefinder built in the camera to accurately focus. Now the great news about an f6 lens, it does bring with it some advantages. Obviously a lens with a maximum aperture of f6 is not for every situation. A lot of the times you're not going to have enough light to shoot at f6 on a film camera, for example. But for those of you that shoot street and you stop your lens down to f8 anyway, this lens is really good, because often if you shoot at f8, you'll use your hyperfocal distance as indicated by the red arrow. So basically you'd set your distance to, 3 meters, and then you'll just gauge it by eye, not by looking through the camera, to take your shot. And that brings with it more amazing benefits. If you're going to use this lens at say f8 for example, because then you can really benefit from cameras like the Voigtlander Bessa L. The Voigtlander Bessa L, which we've covered in previous videos, is a bit of a strange one. It has no viewfinder and no rangefinder, obviously nothing at the front. But if you're stopping down to f8 anyway, as an example, or f6 if you want to shoot the lens wide open, this combination is amazing. I like Leicas, but if I want the ultimate lightweight combo for running, cycling, this, if you put a small balloon on this, it would just float away. I'll get to the weight in a second, but this lens camera combination is absolutely awesome. And this is how I use the lens the most. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's just pull it back a second. In terms of the look or character of this lens, being an f6 widest aperture, this is a sharp lens. It provides high contrast images, and if you stop the lens down to say f8, f11, the contrast gets even greater. And it also vignettes quite heavily. I actually quite like the heavy vignetting look. It kind of edits the picture in camera for you, so to speak. But again, as you stop the lens down, the vignetting should reduce. Same with any lens. And I guess of how amazing this lens actually is, I always use the Flickr website to look at cameras and lenses before making a purchase, trying to do my research to see if the lens or camera does anything particularly special to the images to make them more interesting than the rest of the images on Flickr, for example. When I first searched for the Orion-15 on Flickr, I think I got through maybe 10 photos and I was already on eBay and buying the lens. It's that amazing in terms of it makes normal scenes look better than normal, and I think any lens that can do that is a tick in the box for me. I'd say it is more of a artistic lens because of the heavy vignetting, but with my photography I'm trying to make things better than reality. So for a lens that can help me do that in camera, that makes that lens kind of instantly attractive to me. So I guess thank you to everyone that posts on Flickr, because it's your images which sold this lens to me personally. Okay, so now getting back to size and weight. That's how small the lens is. How much do you think this lens weighs? 80 grams, which is about 2.8 ounces. I think it is the lightest lens I own. Maybe the only lens that comes close to this is an Industral lens, because they're also made of aluminium. Again, I'll do that in a future video, so if you're not yet subscribed, feel free to subscribe if you want to see that. And then in terms of filter thread, it's said to have a 40.5 filter thread, but I believe that's the inner filter. Because what I've realised is, by using a step ring, I can screw in a, albeit not perfectly, I can screw in a 43mm step ring, or say 43mm filter onto the outer part of the filter thread. So it's not designed to be like this. The filter should be on the inside thread, as I understand. But 43mm is a much more common size, so for anybody that shoots 43mm already, you should be able to fit your 43mm lenses straight onto this. Also, the great thing about the lens design is you don't need a lens hood, because the front element is recessed into the lens body. So that's one less thing to worry about. And before we get on to price, while we're talking about size, for all of you Leica shooters, here's the Leica Elmrit 28mm f2.8 spherical lens. I'll take the cap off for a fair test. 28mm f2.8 Leica Elmrit, and the amazing... trying to get my... Hang on. Let me use my notebook. Okay, let's do this properly. Okay, Leica Elmrit 28mm f2.8, Orion-15 28mm f6. Both of these lenses will fit your Leica M cameras. Obviously, this will also fit Leica screw mount cameras. Not only Leicas, but also things like the Voigtlander Bessa L we've looked at, the Voigtlander Bessa R, the Canon Model 7. There's quite a few screw mount cameras out there which will all accept this lens. So how much does this lens cost? Well, while we have the Elmrit with us, we can use it as an example. So the cost of the Elmrit, this is where it gets tricky because my notes are here and the lenses are here. This could be dangerous. I'll put them down. 1 second. Okay, I have the prices. So, excuse the notes. Leica Elmrit, new price £1,900, which is around $2,500 US. 28mm f2.8, absolutely amazing, super duper sharp, resolving everything, really good 28mm lens. But costs almost £2,000. Orion-15, obviously a 1950s lens, so you cannot buy this lens new. £200 on eBay seems to be the going rate. So, £200, 28mm lens which will fit your Leica and give you sharp contrasty images. £2,000, 28mm lens which will fit your Leica and give you sharp images. Now without pixel peeping, the Leica Elmrit I would expect should give you much sharper images, being a much more modern spherical design lens. But, and this is the but, in terms of most pleasing to the eye, this is a much more artistic lens because of the heavy vignetting. So if you want a kind of clinical, super sharp, exact replica of what you see in front of your camera, use the Elmarit. Again, see that video if you've not already seen it, I can link it below. If you want to capture something better than what's in front of your camera, get the Orion-15. I quite like the Orion-15, but obviously the Elmarit does have its place. And to recap, £200 is around $260 US. Now again, for any of you Leica users, if you think 28mm and you think small and you think heavy vignetting, you might be like, I've heard that before. Yes, you have. Those characteristics are also seen on the Leica Summaron 28mm f5.6 lens. So you have Leica's own 28mm f5.6 costing £2,300 or $3,000 US, or you can have the £200 28mm f6 lens, which arguably does exactly the same job. I guess for any of you that don't know, the Leica Summaron 28mm 5.6 is designed to be less sharp and kind of more classic rendering. So my bet is this is actually going to be sharper than the Leica Summaron, which costs $3,000 for less than $300. Quite a nice lens. And when it's 10 times cheaper, it suddenly becomes a really nice lens. So would I recommend this lens? Yes, as you probably expected, I would recommend this lens. That's why I have this lens. But I guess to hopefully add more value to you guys, who would I recommend this lens to? Would I recommend it to portrait photographers like myself? No. Would I recommend it for available light photographers? No. Would I recommend it for wedding photography? No. Would I recommend it for obvious things that it's not any good for? Sport photography, food photography, product photography? No. I would recommend it for street and documentary photography especially, and also travel photography. Then to go one step further, if you're looking to travel and do documentary photography from your backpack, for example, and you want a really minimal kit, you'll really love the size and weight of this lens. And then in terms of film or digital, if you shoot this on a Leica M camera or any digital camera, even say Sony cameras, I guess. Not that I have experience with Sony cameras, but if you shoot with any modern camera with a good high ISO capability, say the Leica M10 monochrome, just as an example, any camera where you can really push the ISO, you'll get the most use out of this lens, because it means you could even be living in the UK in the winter months and you'd still have enough light to shoot available light photography with a digital sensor at a high ISO and then the lens at say f6. And then when it comes to film, you're probably going to want to shoot at least ISO 400 film, unless you live somewhere lovely and bright, which I always dream of. Then of course you can probably just use standard ISO 100 film, for example. And to finish, the ultimate partner for this lens is the Voigtlander Bessa L. Why? Because the Voigtlander Bessa L is the lightest camera I own, I believe. I'd say the Voigtlander Bessa L #1, Leica Minolta CL #2 currently as the lightest two cameras I've got. The CL, the advantage of the CL is you have a rangefinder so you can accurately focus this lens. But if you just want something super light and not have to worry about focusing, this is definitely my favourite run around overseas travel camera. And with that said, I'll leave you with a few example photos from a long run I did in Poland, where I carried this lens and camera kind of in my hydration vest. For the 0.001% of anybody that runs or cycles and wants to see what gear I use for carrying cameras, I've already done a video on that. And again, I can link it below for anybody interested. But I would say of all my lenses, this is up there with the very best for kind of an exploring camera. If you want to climb a mountain and make it look arty at the same time, as long as there's good light, this would be a really great lens to take up there. And that's it for this video. If you're a Leica shooter, I have another very popular mainstream lens coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. And if you're one of my new Nikon subscribers and you managed to last all through this video, I have multiple Nikon cameras coming, so I'm really excited for that. I'm just waiting on one more body to arrive before I can put that video together, but coming very soon also. So there's going to be a mix of some Leica stuff, some Nikon stuff, and a bit of everything in between. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and feel free to subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. If any of you watching have used this lens before, do let me know in the description. It'll be interesting to see how many people have even heard of this lens. Finally, as always, a huge thanks to the continued support from my Patrons. And for those of you new to the channel, I also post on the platform called Patreon, where I post additional information almost daily. It can be videos, photos, behind the scenes videos, lots of kind of value add stuff, hopefully for people interested in Leicas, film cameras, portrait lighting, models, editing, all that kind of good stuff. So if you've never checked it out, click the video above and it'll give you more information. Thank you all so much for watching, and back here soon in a few days with the next video. Bye.